English Talk Show. Learn English through real conversations.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the English Talk Show. I'm your host, Peter, and I'm so happy to have you here with me today. If this is your first time watching, let me quickly explain what this show is all about. We use real conversations about current events and everyday life to help you improve your English. No textbooks, no boring grammar drills, just real English spoken naturally. Our goal here is to make learning English as engaging and practical as possible. By listening to authentic conversations, you can learn not only new words and expressions, but also how native speakers interact, ask questions, and share ideas. It's a method that really works, and I hope you find it helpful. Before we dive into today's topic, I want to take a moment to say thank you to all of you watching from around the world. I absolutely love seeing your comments. Please tell us where you're watching from. Whether you're in Kenya, Brazil, India, Japan, or anywhere else, let me know in the comments below. I love sending greetings to all corners of the globe. And of course, if you enjoy the show and want to keep learning with us, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. That way, you won't miss any of our upcoming episodes. We've got more fascinating topics and amazing guests coming soon. Now, let's move to today's episode, though I must say it's a very serious and tragic topic. We're talking about the recent crash of an Air India aircraft. This devastating incident has shaken people around the world, and our hearts go out to everyone affected. To help us understand more about what happened and what might have caused this accident, we're joined by a very special guest, aviation expert Lida McLaren. Lida has years of experience in flight operations and safety management. Lida, thank you for being with us today.
Thank you so much, Peter. It's an honor to be here, although I wish it were under better circumstances. Like many in the aviation world, I was deeply saddened by the news. These kinds of incidents are always heartbreaking.
They really are. So, Lida, before we talk about the possible causes, could you share with our audience what we know so far about the crash, where it happened, the route of the flight, and how many people were on board?
Of course. The flight was Air India 171, operated by a Boeing 787 Dreamliner. It departed from Ahmedabad in western India and was en route to London Gatwick. Unfortunately, just minutes after takeoff, the aircraft went down near a residential area close to a university campus.
That's tragic. And it hit buildings on the ground as well, right?
Yes, the plane crashed into a student hostel and several nearby houses. At the time, many students were inside. Early reports indicate that the crash caused multiple fatalities, not only among passengers, but also among residents in that area.
Do we have an official number of passengers and survivors?
The aircraft was carrying 242 people, including 12 crew members. Sadly, more than 200 are confirmed dead. Only a handful survived, including a young woman from the UK who miraculously made it out alive and is now recovering in hospital.
It's incredible that anyone survived something like that. Now, Lida, I imagine there's still a lot of investigation ahead, but can you tell us what the possible causes of a crash like this could be?
Absolutely. While we must wait for the official investigation, there are a few common factors that experts will look into: mechanical failure, pilot error, weather conditions, and even possible bird strikes during takeoff. The flight data and cockpit voice recorders will give investigators a clearer picture.
Let's talk about those black boxes. How important are they in determining the cause of a crash?
They're essential. The black boxes, one for flight data and the other for cockpit audio, record everything that happens during the flight. That includes engine performance, altitude, airspeed, and all the conversations in the cockpit. They often hold the key to understanding exactly what went wrong.
That's fascinating. It really gives us an idea of how thorough these investigations can be. Has there been any information yet about whether the black boxes have been recovered?
Yes, actually. Recovery teams found both the flight data recorder and cockpit voice recorder within 24 hours of the crash. They're currently being analyzed by India's Directorate General of Civil Aviation, with support from international experts.
That's encouraging to hear. It means we might soon have more concrete answers. Now, what about the weather at the time? Do we know if that could have played a role?
Weather was initially reported as stable, with only mild winds and no severe turbulence. That said, micro-weather conditions near the airport, like wind shear or sudden downdrafts, can be very localized and still pose serious threats during takeoff.
Interesting. I imagine takeoff and landing are the most critical phases of a flight, right?
Exactly. Statistically, most accidents happen during takeoff or landing. These are the moments when aircraft are closest to the ground and pilots have the least amount of time to react if something goes wrong.
So in this case, since the plane crashed shortly after takeoff, would you say mechanical failure might be a more likely cause?
It's certainly one of the leading theories. Eyewitnesses reported seeing flames from one of the engines, and some even mentioned hearing strange noises before the crash. Investigators will be focusing on engine performance, fuel systems, and maintenance records.
That must be difficult for the airline, too, managing both the technical investigation and the emotional side of this tragedy.
Absolutely. Airlines have crisis response protocols, but no amount of planning can fully prepare a company for the loss of an aircraft and so many lives. They're also under public scrutiny, so transparency and compassion are crucial.
Have Air India or government officials made any public statements about the incident yet?
Yes, both the airline and the Indian Prime Minister have expressed deep condolences. A national day of mourning has also been declared. Air India is cooperating fully with the investigation and has set up support teams for families of the victims.
That's good to hear. It's important for families to feel supported during such an unimaginable time.
Exactly. Many of these families are not only grieving, but also looking for answers. Some were at the airport waiting for loved ones who never arrived. The human impact is devastating.
So heartbreaking. I've seen photos online of memorials being created near the crash site. Communities are really coming together.
Yes, there's been a tremendous outpouring of support. People are lighting candles, leaving flowers, and even organizing prayer services. Tragedy often brings out the best in human solidarity.
Let's hope that continue. Shifting gears just a little, how does a crash like this affect aviation worldwide?
Great question. Major crashes always trigger global reviews. Other airlines flying the same aircraft model will likely perform additional checks, and aviation authorities may issue temporary advisories or restrictions until the cause is clear.
So it doesn't just affect India, but the entire aviation industry?
That's right. Aviation is interconnected. If a design flaw or mechanical issue is discovered, it could affect fleets across multiple countries. Safety updates are shared quickly across borders.
That makes sense. And I suppose public confidence can also take a hit after something like this.
Definitely. It's natural for people to feel anxious about flying after a major crash. That's why clear communication and rapid action from aviation authorities are so important to reassure the public and maintain trust.
And what about pilot training? Could a situation like this lead to changes in how pilots are trained or certified?
Yes, in some cases. If the investigation reveals that human error was a contributing factor, training protocols might be reviewed. This could include simulator exercises for emergency procedures or better communication protocols during takeoff and landing.
I see. So even when human error is involved, the goal is to learn and improve, not just to assign blame.
Exactly. Aviation is built on a culture of learning from past incidents. The goal is always prevention. We ask, how can we make sure this never happens again?
That's a powerful approach. Now, you mentioned earlier that eyewitnesses saw flames. Could that suggest an engine explosion?
Possibly. It could have been an uncontained engine failure, where engine components breach the casing and potentially damage other parts of the plane. But we'll need black box data and forensic analysis to confirm that.
I'm also curious, how long does a full investigation like this usually take?
Preliminary reports often come out within 30 days, but a full investigation can take 6 to 12 months, sometimes longer. It involves testing materials, simulating conditions, and ruling out various scenarios.
That's quite a process. And I assume families are updated as more information becomes available.
Yes, investigators typically brief the families before making public announcements. It's a way to show respect and ensure that they're not hearing everything from the media first.
That's thoughtful. I imagine communication is key in every part of the process.
Absolutely. From airline staff to investigators, clear and empathetic communication can make a big difference in how a tragedy like this is handled.
Let's talk about the aircraft model for a second. Was this a newer plane or an older one?
It was a Boeing 737, an older generation, but one of the most widely used aircraft in commercial aviation. It had reportedly passed all required safety inspections prior to the flight.
That's interesting. So even older models can be very safe when properly maintained.
Correct. Aircraft are built to last decades. The key is consistent maintenance, regular inspections, and updates in accordance with manufacturer and aviation authority guidelines.
Have there been other incidents involving this aircraft model in recent years?
A few, yes. But it's important to note that each case is unique. While trends are monitored, one incident doesn't necessarily point to a systemic flaw unless proven otherwise.
Right. Jumping to conclusions can be dangerous. Better to wait for facts.
Exactly. The aviation world is very data-driven. Assumptions can distract from real causes and delay effective safety improvements.
What role do international agencies like the FAA or EASA play in situations like this?
They often assist in investigations, especially if the aircraft was built in their country. They might send experts or request reports, and if systemic risks are found, they issue safety directives that affect global aviation.
It's impressive how coordinated this all is. So many countries, teams, and departments working together.
It is. Aviation is one of the most regulated industries in the world. That's a big part of why air travel remains statistically the safest mode of transportation.
That's a comforting thought, especially for people who are nervous flyers. Sometimes one tragic event makes people forget how rare these crashes really are.
Absolutely. For every accident, there are millions of flights that arrive safely. It's natural to feel anxious, but aviation safety is built on continuous learning and improvement.
You've shared so much valuable insight today, Lita. I'm sure our viewers are learning a lot, not just about this incident, but about aviation safety in general.
Thank you, Peter. It's important to help people understand how complex and robust the systems are. Transparency helps build trust.
Earlier, you mentioned maintenance checks. Are these usually done by the airline itself or by third-party services?
Both, depending on the airline's resources. Larger airlines often have their own maintenance departments, while others outsource to certified providers. Either way, checks must comply with strict international standards.
And are there different levels of maintenance?
Yes, there are daily checks, more in-depth weekly inspections, and even major overhauls called D-checks that happen every 6 to 10 years. These are incredibly detailed and can take weeks.
Wow, that really shows the level of commitment to safety. Does any part of this tragedy seem preventable to you at this point?
It's too early to say definitively, but every accident, no matter how tragic, reveals weak points, whether in technology, training, or communication. that can be improved.
That's a wise perspective. Even in the darkest moments, there's a way forward through knowledge.
Exactly. And the aviation industry is very good at turning pain into progress. It's a culture of responsibility.
Some people are probably wondering how this tragedy compares to others in recent memory. Is it among the worst?
In terms of fatalities, it's deeply tragic, but not the largest in history. Still, the suddenness of the crash and the fact that many families were traveling together makes it emotionally devastating.
And sometimes the context makes it even harder. I read that there were several children on board. That's heartbreaking.
Yes, and students returning home, newlyweds, people going for medical treatment. So many individual stories that end too soon. That human element is what stays with you.
Thank you for bringing that up. It's easy to get lost in data and forget that real lives were involved.
I always say, behind every seat number, there's a name, a story, a family. That's what keeps safety professionals so committed to their work.
It really puts things in perspective. What message would you share with viewers who are afraid to fly after hearing about this crash?
I'd tell them that air travel remains incredibly safe. And every time something like this happens, the industry becomes even safer. Fear is natural, but facts matter.
I appreciate that. Facts over fear. That's a good message. And speaking of messages, we're getting comments from viewers saying they're watching from Kenya, Brazil, the Philippines.
That's amazing. It's great to see people around the world coming together to learn and reflect on such an important topic.
Some people are also asking in the comments about flight insurance. Do passengers usually receive compensation after accidents like this?
Yes, international conventions like the Montreal Convention provide for compensation. Airlines also typically have insurance coverage for passengers and crew. The exact process varies depending on the country and circumstances.
And what about the investigation team? Who leads it when the aircraft is from one country, the airline is from another, and it crashes in a third?
Good question. The country where the accident occurs usually leads the investigation, but the aircraft's country of manufacture and the airline's home country participate. It's a coordinated effort under ICAO standards.
Coordination seems to be a big theme in aviation, doesn't it?
Absolutely. Coordination, communication, and compliance are the three pillars that keep the skies safe.
If there's one technical term viewers should learn from today's discussion, what would you choose?
I'd say redundancy. It means having multiple systems in place so if one fails, others can take over. It's a key concept in aviation safety.
That's fascinating and reassuring. Redundancy means backup, and backup means hope.
Exactly. That's why even with failures, planes can often land safely. It's all part of the engineering.
Lita, you've been so generous with your time and knowledge today. I want to sincerely thank you on behalf of everyone watching.
Thank you, Peter. It was an honor to be here and help people understand more about aviation and safety. These conversations matter.
And to all of you watching from around the world, thank you so much for joining us on this important and emotional episode of the English Talk Show. We hope today's conversation not only helped you understand more about the tragic Air India plane crash, but also gave you the chance to improve your English by listening to real, meaningful dialogue. Please don't forget to subscribe, give this video a like, and leave a comment telling us where in the world you're watching from. We love hearing from our global family and we'll send you a special shout-out next time. And remember, every week we bring you new discussions about real-life topics to help you learn English in the most natural way possible. Stay safe, stay curious, and we'll see you in the next episode of the English Talk Show.